Last week, Disney released a new teaser trailer for its upcoming Snow White movie. Unsurprisingly, it quickly grabbed attention, but for all the wrong reasons. The trailer has already racked up over 1 million dislikes compared to just 70,000 likes, making it clear the reception has been overwhelmingly negative.
Nothing has brought me greater joy than watching the Walt Disney Company absolutely panic.
The comment section is filled with harsh criticism, with much of the blame aimed directly at Disney.
I think it's a lot of pressure, right?
It's definitely a lot of pressure, but I surround very good people who keep me grounded. And
I'm actually really confused as to why people are hating on Rachel Zegler for her interviews on Snow White.
But I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have.
I mean, she said that she hated the original cartoon version. Okay, that's why she's in the remake. What?
When I tell you that it's hard, I just mean to be inside my brain.
She didn't say she hated the current movie. She said she hated the one made in 1937.
This teaser has become one of the most disliked in recent years, adding to the studio's already struggling reputation. Now about Joe Rogan, because you know he didn't hold back on this one. On his podcast, Rogan dove headfirst into the controversy surrounding Rachel Zegler and Disney's Snow White. His comments had fans buzzing for days, with some agreeing wholeheartedly and others accusing him of being too harsh. Rogan didn't mince words when discussing Zegler's dismissal of the 1937 classic, calling her comments, quote, a huge slap in the face to Disney's history and their fans. He questioned how someone could take on the role of a beloved character like Snow White, only to criticize the very legacy that gave the role meaning. Rogan even speculated that Zegler's public remarks were a symptom of a larger issue with Hollywood today. They don't respect the classics anymore, he said. It's all about tearing down what worked and replacing it with something that feels hollow. He went on to say that this trend isn't just frustrating, it's alienating audiences who grew up cherishing these timeless stories. For many, this movie represents everything they believe has gone wrong with Disney in 2024. Fans feel the studio has completely dismantled the once magical legacy of Snow White through puzzling creative decisions. Audiences can't help but ask, how did Disney mismanage one of its most beloved properties so badly? The studio's ability to recover from this backlash remains to be seen, but the reaction signals deeper discontent among loyal fans. Let's break down the chaos step by step. To start, the film originally planned to replace Snow White's iconic dwarfs with a group of magical, diverse creatures. This was intended to avoid potential backlash over outdated stereotypes. However, when actors with dwarfism voiced concerns about being excluded, Disney scrambled to make changes once again. In their latest move, the studio decided to make the dwarfs entirely CGI. The result? A visually awkward and lifeless spectacle that fails to capture the heart of the story while also alienating viewers. Disney's decision-making here is nothing short of perplexing. The whole appeal of live-action films is to bring beloved animated classics to life, yet this adaptation feels more artificial than ever. In the trailer, the CGI characters look like plastic, cartoonish figures completely lacking in charm or authenticity. Criticism over these changes began long before the teaser was even released. Still, Disney's ongoing missteps turned what could have been helpful feedback into full-blown outrage. Audiences are left wondering how such poor choices were made for a story so cherished across generations. Joe Rogan also questioned Disney's marketing strategy, saying, how do you release a teaser like that and expect people to be excited? It looks like they're ashamed of their own work. Rogan argued that the backlash wasn't just about Zegler's comments. It was about a growing disconnect between Disney and its fans. He even hinted that this controversy could be a turning point for the studio, warning, if they don't course correct, they're in for a rude awakening. The podcast episode quickly went viral, with clips of Rogan's fiery take circulating across social media. Fans flooded comment sections to share their own frustrations, with many echoing Rogan's sentiment that Disney needs to go back to its roots. His bold perspective has only added fuel to the fire, leaving fans on both sides of the debate more divided than ever. At the center of this controversy is Rachel Zegler, cast as Snow White. Her casting initially sparked cautious optimism among fans, but her public comments about the original film quickly changed the narrative. She notoriously described the 1937 classic as extremely dated and even called its romance creepy and weird. This sparked outrage as many questioned how someone chosen to represent such a beloved character could openly criticize the very story that made her famous. Fans saw her remarks as a direct insult to the original creators and generations of viewers who cherished the timeless tale. What made matters worse was Disney's apparent approval of Zegler's statements. By allowing her to publicly critique the original film without addressing the backlash, the studio sent a message that it didn't value its own legacy or its fan base. This was a public relations disaster that could have been avoided with a more thoughtful approach. Instead, it further alienated audiences and deepened the growing divide between the studio and its loyal fans. The situation serves as yet another example of how poor handling of criticism can magnify already existing frustrations. Instead of addressing concerns thoughtfully, Disney doubled down on its divisive messaging, further alienating even its most loyal fans. Their attempts at damage control only added fuel to the fire. Rachel Zegler was pushed into numerous interviews where she made lackluster efforts to praise the project. Unfortunately, her initial comments had already gone viral, and her sudden shift in tone did little to win back audiences. The trailer didn't help matters either. Zegler's portrayal of Snow White felt worlds apart from the sweet, kind-hearted princess audiences cherished. Instead, she came across as brash, condescending, and self-righteous, qualities that seemed completely out of place for the character. This disconnect deepened the frustration as fans felt their beloved Snow White had been entirely reimagined into someone unrecognizable. To make things worse, many believe this isn't just a misstep with one movie, but a symptom of Disney's broader issues. Fans feel the studio has strayed from its storytelling roots, prioritizing messaging over the magic that once defined its brand. The situation highlights a growing sentiment that Disney has lost touch with the audience that built its legacy. In its effort to push political messages and virtue signaling, Disney's changes to Snow White highlight a broader trend in its recent projects. Traditional narratives are being abandoned in favor of modern, strong female leads. While strong female characters are certainly welcome, these portrayals often lack depth or relatability. In Snow White's case, the changes feel forced and empty, erasing the charm and timeless qualities that made the original resonate with audiences. The situation was further complicated by Peter Dinklage's criticism of the Seven Dwarfs, which he labeled as backward. His comments led Disney to completely overhaul the characters. While Dinklage's remarks were likely well-intentioned, they sparked backlash from fans and industry insiders alike. Many viewed his stance as hypocritical, given his participation in fantastical roles in the past. To make matters worse, his critique effectively sidelined opportunities for other actors with dwarfism, a move many saw as counterproductive. Disney's decision to replace the dwarfs with CGI characters only added to the outrage, making the changes feel even more out of touch. This controversy serves as yet another example of how the studio's attempts to modernize classics can alienate the very audiences they aim to engage. Fans have been vocal about their disappointment over the loss of practical effects and authentic performances. Set leaks only added fuel to the fire when photos of the magical creatures surfaced, revealing what many saw as cheap costumes and uninspired designs. Disney initially tried to deny the leaks, but fans were quick to mock the images, and the backlash was swift. Eventually, the studio admitted the images were real, but reassured fans they'd be enhanced with CGI. Unfortunately, judging by the trailer, those improvements were underwhelming at best. Another major issue is the shift in tone. In the original story, Snow White's kindness and humility were the core of her character's appeal. However, the trailer and leaked footage hint at a significant departure from these traits. In one scene, Snow White lectures the dwarfs on cleaning their own home, coming off as smug and condescending rather than warm or inspiring. This portrayal makes her feel less like the beloved heroine and more like an antagonist, ironically, even less sympathetic than the evil queen. These drastic changes have left fans questioning the creative choices behind this adaptation. Instead of preserving the heart of the story, Disney's approach seems to have stripped away the qualities that made Snow White an enduring classic. And speaking of the evil queen, There's even more to unpack about her role in this divisive retelling. This Snow White adaptation feels like a masterclass in poor decision-making. From questionable casting choices and tone-deaf marketing to divisive politics and an over-reliance on CGI, the film seems to embody everything critics believe is wrong with Disney today. It's a heartbreaking fall from grace for a studio that once set the gold standard for animated storytelling. Rather than celebrating its legacy, Disney appears to be dismantling it, piece by piece. What should have been a tribute to one of Walt Disney's greatest achievements has instead become a cautionary tale of what happens when a studio loses touch with its audience. Fans aren't just disappointed with Snow White, they're mourning the loss of the magic that once defined Disney. The heartbreak goes beyond one movie. It's a reflection of deeper frustrations with the studio's recent direction. Whether Disney can recover from this debacle remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. This Snow White remake is destined to be remembered as one of the company's most infamous failures. For many, it's a stark reminder of the importance of respecting a legacy while staying true to the audience that made it iconic. What should have been a tribute to one of Walt Disney's greatest achievements has instead become a cautionary tale of what happens when a studio loses touch with its audience. Fans aren't just disappointed with Snow White, they're mourning the loss of the magic that once defined Disney. The heartbreak goes beyond one movie. It's a reflection of deeper frustrations with the studio's recent direction. Whether Disney can recover from this debacle remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. This Snow White remake is destined to be remembered as one of the company's most infamous failures.